Okay. Should be good now. Fantastic. What's up, Guillotine? Let me get the link set up, sent out, and then let's get to chatting. I still am hoping my plan for the stream day to switch to Tuesday ends up working out. I gotta ask about that next week because I'm just waiting for like a updated work schedule to happen, and if so, things will work in my favor. Everybody's always wanting like Fridays and Mondays off to extend weekends, but I don't know, Tuesday just works out for me. But anyway, I am definitely hyped for these next chapters. I mean, the Elentir one, like I've been thinking more and more about it over the weekend. Like it's or not the weekend, the throughout the week. It just what's up, Jared Punch? It's just such a weird thing to drop at the end because there's zero context. Obviously, that was the point, though. It's supposed to be extra mysterious. It's supposed to just kind of like get you confused. It just reminds me of like just back when Acnology was first mentioned. It's obviously the best and most easily relatable one to kind of connect it to because it was also said by Zareth, whereas the White Witch is in sort of a like similar scale as Zareth. We don't know exactly if she's gonna like if her overall plan is gonna be as absurd as Zareth resetting time. We'll see exactly what she's gonna do, but I'm hoping it's going to have something to do with the gods, because if Elentir is a god, and then it's like, well, maybe that this is just a different god that did stuff that is some way related to the White Witch, and then we find out like maybe that leads to Ankh Saram. We can finally get some Ankh Saram lore because that's obviously a very big character that we have never really got any information on. Like obviously Ankh Saram being the one to curse Seraph and everything. There's a lot of potential that that character can kind of present, and obviously with world building and just in general, like what sort of like bigger threats can exist out in the world if we start seeing like, oh, maybe there's a pantheon of gods and they all have different effects or different things rather that they're kind of like gods over, and it's through that you can kind of build uh just an overall bigger idea of their world and like some of the things out there that can really be a danger. Let me post up on Twitter. I'm just gonna say, let's just say, uh, I don't, crazy, crazy calamities are up and coming in manga in a lot of shonens. And then I'll do obviously Fairy Tail, Black Clover, and then I'll do Eden Zero, Jujutsu Kaisen, Chainsaw Man. Usually my go-to, those five. I think that should be enough. Unfortunately, I'm always wondering why like Twitter is gives such small posts. Like I've never really understand like why there wasn't an option to do bigger posts. I guess it's just in the format. I don't know. I don't really care too much, but you know what I mean. Alright, let's do Eden Zero, Chainsaw Man, Jujutsu Kaisen. And then I will post that. Hopefully we get some more people to come hang out. We can get talking about just the work week, the I guess it's weeb week, but talk about just everything that's been going on in these chapters, seeing what exactly we're have coming up. I mean, obviously Asta now has got like a big spot, and he's going to be kind of actually like straight put in the front instead of just the you know getting pulled along, because obviously Austin did a lot in the Elf Resurrection arc, but he wasn't brought along in like a big regard. Like he's high potential, he's got a lot of ability he can use, but now he's going to be put right as the key player against the Spade. I think that's going to be really fun to see how exactly Asta handles that and how that really plays out, because it's his big time for his displaying his legitimacy as a potential Wizard King, to really show what he could do for the kingdom and to really show what Asta can bring with him, bring to the table. I hope Acnologia shows back up. I'm hoping too. It depends on like if he just is kind of like seen in Nazi's beta heaven, but I'm hoping that some of the stuff that's like being set up right now could lead to like Acnologia being revived or something, because there's a lot of ways, like maybe the weird mural thing that Eleftheria has is like, oh, what if it's like a portal to the afterlife and he wants to bring Acnologia back? Or there's something that happened because Acnologia like did stuff with time itself and like part of reality that he could almost like be unkillable to a degree or something. I don't know. I want him to come back. I want there to be a setup to where he can come back to where we can actually get his character in presented a lot more and get a much like longer going villain position. Like if like the ending battle in Alvarez was just kind of like a temporary piece, like they were able to pretty much just push Acnology back for a bit, but because of events of 100 Years Quest, they bring him back and he gets brought way more, and we really just see how terrifying Acnologia can be, like seeing him fully up in force. I don't know. I'm really hoping for something like that because I really like Acnologia, and especially after they gave his anime backstory because I think his anime exclusive backstory because I mean it's done by Hiroshima, it's canon, so you can just kind of say his backstory. But like I really liked his backstory. I thought it was great. I really like how it connected to different parts in the story, and you like even if it was able to just to bring something up, you didn't need like a full recap of everything because anybody who paid attention to even events not too much further back from there, like Irene's story, you were able to understand what happened, like when the Elder Acnologia went out to go find like anything about Dragon Slayers, about the Dragon War going on. There was a lot to kind of set that up, and I really liked that. I really liked how everything it connected to, and then also how it kind of mirrored Natsu's life, but obviously going in a darker direction. I thought that was really cool. So remembered Williams saying saving the Golden Dawn members, even though wasn't there. I mean, maybe it was like a sensing thing, or maybe this is just how he refused, or how he assumed it went. I mean, it's not like he remembered a full-scale battle. We just saw a flashback image of William in mid-combat. But at the same time, it's not a big deal. I mean, I feel like just this one of those scenes. It doesn't have to be too like spot on. Of like, well, how does this character remember this part in their flashback when they weren't even in the room yet, or something, or like down the street where maybe they wouldn't have really seen the whole thing. And it's just like just let them play the flashback. It's not a big deal. Why Diablos want to destroy the orbs, or more precisely, where do they get to know it was a way to weaken Alderaan? Were they fooled by Selene or the White Witch? I mean, we'll probably find out more about like their information and their network and their guild as we go. There's still like a lot of stuff, obviously, about Diablos we have no idea about. We don't know how many members there are. We don't really know exactly where their guild is. We don't know the guild's origins. We have no idea about Georg and like how they even became Dragon Eaters in the first place. There's definitely a lot of like really good mystery set up behind them, and I really like the Dragon Gods. And with the Dragon Gods, it's more of I really want to see like what they're all capable of and how they're all different and what they're like and like the ties to the past. But when it comes to the mystery, I prefer the Diablos and the White Witch because the mystery is really fun too. Like a lot of the display, a lot of the big stuff, obviously, is Dragon Gods. But when it comes to just like the questions and kind of like theorizing and trying to build an idea and predictions, it's those are really good sets. Like you have the Dragon Eaters. We like I said, all the things we don't know about them, as well as just them in general. They've all been really interesting, and I've really liked how each of the dragon eaters have a attribute that their attributes aren't anyway close to what we've seen before. Like before the dragon eaters, like dragon slayers were all elemental, fire, iron, sky. I mean, sky is just a variant of wind, but lightning, white, which is just a variant of light, shadow, like everything was just elements, and then we got like all these crazy blade, corpse, armor. They're all really just odd, and I like that also about the Dragoneers. It adds it so like whenever we get a Dragoneer showing up, we're able to just instead of it being like, oh, this guy's green, he's gonna be like a plant dragon slayer or something. It's like, oh, this guy's green, and he ends up being like a radiation dragon like slayer or something. I mean, like look at Scolion. I mean, Scolion is already such a oddly designed character, but yet so cool. Or or Nibiru. I mean, like, what would you really expect seeing him beforehand? And then he's like clinging Dragon Slayer, and it's like anything that's sticky and like oddly elastic. It's just odd, and I like that about him a lot. Moonbusters and Fairy Tail. I mean, they've already have people above that. I mean, the Phoenix was capable of completely wiping the surface of the planet clean, and the Fairy Tail planet is drastically larger than our planet. So, I mean, yeah, I mean the moon already, like, people have done stuff with the moon. We already know that the moon has like a total quantity of magic in their world, and yet the space between time was beyond even that. Acnology eating that, like, there's definitely already stuff well above that. Elentir is probably Selene. I don't think so. The thing that makes me not think it's Selene is I think that Selene's wouldn't want to really do anything to the moon. It could easily be Selene. Maybe Elentir is her last name, or maybe Elentir is like a dragon that's like aligned with her or something. But the thing that makes me think that, especially that it's not, is the way she's talking about it. It probably has more to do with her backstory and why she went to Selene in the first place. There's still obviously the possibility it's just Selene, and maybe that's a name that people would give Selene, like maybe Elentir, because like the the naming Elentir, at least from what I found, assuming this is the origins of the name, is like Ellen, who is like a Greek god of it's like shining light or like bright, and tier has to do with like knowledge and education. Maybe that's like something that people refer to Selene as, because Selene seems a little bit like she's culty religious in a different way than the other two. Whereas like Mercephobia was more of like a nice guy that people worshipped, and Alderaan was more of like a sleeping god, and he was never really involved. But maybe it's because Selene is actually seemingly active. I would believe in what exactly like her whole setup is, maybe her religion. And there's still a lot of stuff that she can connect to. I gotta do a video talking about just some of the things in Fairy Tail already that exist that you can kind of tie back to her. I mean, even like the Bellionese race that we had mentioned in Galuna Island, we don't really know much about, but it would be perfect to connect her or the that language in the Moon Drip to Selene, because it's moon based. It has stuff to do with the moon and a moon dragon goddess, not just moon dragon, but the top of all of them. It would make sense. It would make a lot of sense for them to kind of like have that constructed around it. I don't think it's just gonna be Selene though, but I mean could be. It really depends on the context we get in the next chapter. The thing that like I said, that makes me kind of believe that might have to do with some god is it reminds me a lot of Zareth and or not, sorry, not Aknologia, Zareth and Ankh-Saram. And Ankh-Saram, it would just be a really cool way to kind of like eventually get us to Ankh-Saram. And I already had a theory when it came to Zareth of that he was like one of four, and you're gonna have kind of like some four horsemen thing, and he matches Famine a bit of the Black Rider, especially because like Zareth's personality and life and death kind of like balance, as well as the rider of the Black Horse, Famine, and Famine's tool being a scale having to do with balance. And then you have the White Witch, who's the white theme, the Horseman of Conquest. It would be really cool, and then you could have four more, and then it's like, well, each of them maybe were affected by a different god, and you could kind of like work that into like the end bosses or something. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities around this. That's why I really like the White Witch in terms of like her solo character, because she's very mysterious. There's a lot that we've been put up about her, but we haven't really seen the conclusion all. I mean, like, look at just the stuff that we know so far. We have Rebellious, her own personal group. We know nothing about them. We don't even know if they're gonna have like their own members, or if it's gonna be like all mind control different characters from throughout the series. There's just a lot of questions about her that we just haven't really gotten around to yet. And then we have like the stuff of why did she choose an exceed in order to take over for her body? That nobody really knows, at least right now. But what we do know is there's some form of reason to her about it. She just hasn't revealed it. Like, she's a very mysterious character, and I think that's a lot of fun, because that was also one of the things like building up from Zareth is we didn't know anything about him for a long time. Like Zareth was built up as this mystery character, like near the star of it just being hinted at a little bit, a couple times as this ancient black wizard, and then we start seeing cults around him, and then we eventually meet him, and he's nothing like people assumed he would be like. Everyone thought he'd be some ancient evil dude, but he was like this tortured soul. And then there were still so many mysteries even after we met him of like why is he like this? What's this curse he's talking about? What is he connected to about Natsu? How is he connected to Acnologia? And that's one of the things I really like about the White Witch. She has a similar, just absolute mystery to her that I think is a lot of fun just to theorize around and kind of work around. I really do like Kiramashima's like mystery setup. I think he's got some of the most interesting reveals that, especially ones that you wouldn't really think would be that big, but ended up just being crazy. Like the Hades being the former, like that he was the second master of the guild as well as one of the founding members. I thought that was just a really cool, like out of nowhere twist. I think that's one of Hiromishima's best things is just twists in general. I think he does great at. I would really like it if Natsu gets trained by Beta Heaven Acnologia. It would depend. I mean, like if he met Acnologia in like his Beta Heaven, I think it should be more about learning lessons. I don't think it would be really that fair for him to kind of train. I mean, it would be we've already seen it. Sorry, we've already seen it kind of like how it's set up already with Beta Heaven and like Natsu at one point having you know being able to fight as a soul, which I still think it has to do with his Aetherius powers and not actual thought projection, because thought projections they're more of like illusions. They're more like a physical hologram. They're not the same as a soul. So I do think that was a different ability, and that's just how Natsu assumed it was. Um, but I mean, we'll see entirely. I mean, there's obviously like still stuff with Beta Heaven that we haven't got to, and I am really interested in finding out more about like the Beta Heaven, exactly how it works, just because it's something that kind of like has been teased somewhat throughout the series, like when we saw future Lucy die, and we saw we knew that there was an afterlife, and then when Natsu was in that limbo stage when he was in a coma for a short period of time. Actually, I mean, he was in two because he was in the one that we really saw, like when he, talked to the representation of Ignil, and then with the demon and dragon seeds. That was, a little. I think a little bit helped with the idea of Beta Heaven. I think it just kind of made it have a lot more larger scale means in the series. So it would make sense because it's already something in there. I do hope that Beta Heaven gets brought up again and we see more about it, especially with the Acnologia foreshadowing and the hinting by the Ignil in there, because I would love to see like some conversations between Natsu and Acnologia. I think that'd be great, and it would fit too because even if it's like Natsu talk to him, we know Acnologia will talk to people that he like actually sees as like above trash, like because the way he saw humans they were pretty much insects, and he would talk to dragons, and then like anybody that wasn't really a human, because he hated how humans cooperated with dragons. He saw them as just part of the problem, and then combine that with like his whole big flex of power and the fact he became what he hated. I think merging up with that wanting to be a monster mentality, that it made sense why he didn't want to talk to humans, but he talked to characters that weren't. I mean, Zareth pretty much was, and he was like this cursed immortal. Irene, Ignil, and then talking to the Dragon Slayers. I think it'd be really cool just to see him have a conversation with Natsu. I would love to see the two of them just interact, and how exactly it would kind of build his character in the story. I would love that. I think that'd be a lot of fun. And then maybe like we have that build into Acnology returning somehow. I don't know. I would love to see something like that. Like somehow Acnologia like is able to manifest existing from like through Beta Heaven or some just badass, and it'd be like absurd, but you'd be like, yeah, but that's Acnologia. He's already done godly things already. So Selena's gonna be the next Tonori Atsuki because he split the moon in half. She's gonna be way cooler than some movie dude. That dude's lame. I mean, the only thing that was cool about him is he had like a cool power up for him. Celine's already more interesting. I think Celine already is like a way more interesting character, because all the dragon gods so far have been way different from each other, and I think that's one of the really cool things about him. And if you include Acnologia, he's also just drastically different. Like Mercifully, he was a bad guy that's reformed, and he's trying to be a good guy. He really wants to help people and do good things. Alderaan was this very egotistical kind of conquering dude. He wanted to be more of like a ruler. Obviously, that's why in his humanoid form he had a crown. Acnologia was just this one man genocide. Like he didn't have. That's why he didn't talk to people. He was just exterminating them. Ignia's more of this hardcore metal, rebellious, teenager, dude in his early 20s or something. He's just trying to be as like punk and metal as possible, badass. He just does not care, except in like all of the most aggressive ways. And then you have Celine, and even what we have with Vierna so far is Vierna seems like he might be like a coward. I don't know, but Celine being this more tactical, calm-minded, comfortable, like cultist like lady, it just makes her seem way more interesting. Noelle about to train with the elves. That'll be really cool. I mean, cause I think that'd be swell too. I want to see if she does in fact have Undine like people believe her to have, because I think that'd be the best way to evolve Noelle. Because Noelle already has a pretty solid moveset, and she could get upgraded very well with just Undine's large scale abilities. Because Undine didn't do anything kind of crazy. Um, it was impressive the sheer scale of what using her was capable of. Just like the way that Lolo could see all over the Heart Kingdom and like affect things in just a range. Well, then like that large body of water that she conjured while they were trying to fight Vonica, I think that'll be really cool with Noelle, because I'm just imagining Noelle having like her Sea Dragon's roar but to that scale, and it would be like Sea Dragon's horde or something, and it would just be multiple Sea Dragons. Like imagine if she makes that ball of water again, but then does like a Sea Dragon version where all of these different Sea Dragon roars just kind of like start twisting around like a Hydra. That would be really cool. If instead of it just being like, oh no, she's not going to be dragon themed, she's going to be themed specifically more around a Hydra, and it just has this multi-headed water dragon. I think that'd be great. I think that would be a really cool way to kind of just give Noelle a buff. It would make her. It'd be a super simplistic increase too, because Noelle's thing is that she has very high amounts of magic, like in quantity. Yuno's ability to, he's more of like a strategized evolver. Like he's more clever, whereas Asta is just sheer force of will pushing himself forward. But like when you look at what we saw with Yuno, like just like essentially how he got Spirit of Zephyr, he took fragments of mana in the air from people's various spells they were casting, and he absorbed it. His is very like I think that he obviously had he's very high level of magic potential. He is still strong. He's still a vice captain, upper vice captain level. He's going to be captain level before like we get into the big rematch for the Spade War. He's going to be way higher up. I mean that's obvious with Austin, but big thing, definitely his biggest thing, I think when it comes to his magic is that ability to recover his mana, and I think that's a really smart way to have him kind of like match up with Asta, because Asta's anti-magic I think can grow a lot obviously faster than a normal like person just in their magic quantity outside of obviously I think Noelle and Undine, because that's different. But Yuno's ability to like if he was fighting Asta's stamina and all around durability, has the ability to constantly be recovering mana and constantly just keeping his his mana pool um, like supplied. Then he's essentially going to have a very high level of just general sustain when it comes to fights, which is obviously going to be really good, and that would be really cool to see with him. Obviously, this very fast, very swift kind of fighter who's constantly being able to just to replenish himself. It's going to be a really, really big deal for him. Let me see where I was. Do you think the Dragon Gods can eat similar types of magic like Dragon Slayers? Well, the Dragon Slayers aren't entirely the same, like in general concept, because they eat the elements because like they have the power of whatever their attribute is. But like the idea is, if you are a fire dragon slayer, your biggest means of use is to counteract a fire dragon. I'm trying to think of like any times where we see the dragons, like pure-blooded dragons, eat their element. I don't think they do. I'm trying really hard to think this off the top of my head. Like Igneel doesn't eat fire. Grandine doesn't eat air. Metallicana doesn't eat metal. Granted, I think they could, but I don't think it would have the same effect as like gaining magic and stamina back. I think for them, if they ate their element, it would just be like eating food. It'd be general, just kind of like nourishment, which would still be useful, but I don't think it would have the exact same effect. Because the idea for Dragon Slayers is you're supposed to be able to counteract, especially that specific one. So if you're fighting a fire dragon, you're a fire dragon slayer, all their attacks are just going to make you stronger and keep you fighting. It's a little bit of a hard one to kind of like look at. Yeah, Noel training with the elves is going to be really cool. But with Celine, I think Celine is going to be connected to. It's doing weird connections. Come on, I got a new headset. I've been trying to get it to work 100% right. Sometimes it's just a little bit of it's wireless, so it has a little bit of connectivity issues. Which I don't know why I bought wireless. I've always been a wire headphone. I like wire products more than wireless, but I decided to go wireless on these headphones. Luckily, I'll just switch to wired ones if I get too frustrated. But where was I in this? Oh, I think that even if it's not Celine specifically, I think moon dragons should be brought up as the like related to the origins of fairy glitter because they work extremely similar. But there are other things that I really am hoping that Celine connects to, like the Bellionese, Moon Drip, the Celestial Spirit Keys would be really cool. People have been talking about that as like a theory as of like, what if she's the one that invented the Celestial Spirits? Um, Maybe she's like, you could do some really cool stuff with Jalal too. It's like, well, what if Celestial Spirit or not Celestial Spirit magic, Heavenly Body magic was invented from people who just like worshipped Celine or something. There's definitely things you can work out in there that would just make general really cool world building. Just because Hiroshima has had a lot of like stuff that works well with her throughout like the series. That could be. We just got to wait and figure out if it actually does. So I just got to be patient on that one. That is definitely stuff I'm super hyped for. Oh, yeah, we'll finally find out if Noelle goes. Yeah, I'm hoping for that. I need that next chapter. I'm hoping she still has it because it's it's such a easy to use yet really viable progression setup for Noelle. I think it's fair based off what we saw, based off of what we were kind of like having towards their relationship, Lolo and Noelle, as well as it would I think it would build a better spot to have as a power for Noelle, because Noelle has to be able to keep up with Yuno and Asta. That needs to happen. She is clearly supposed to be, set as one of the main three. Obviously, we know that it's the lead female, but also like stuff like that sketch when we saw. What was it 249? I think the chapter was when we saw all three of them, like in that color page. And they're all in their power up forms. They all had their swords. It just lines up too well. And there's no way that Noelle is gonna fall behind Austin, because obviously Asta is gonna be more powerful. Has to get way more powerful. So Noelle should and will. I don't think that Noelle's gonna fall behind. Ishiki versus LF Seraph. We don't know anything about LF Seraph. We don't even know how Law Dragon magic works. That's another thing. Obviously, Law Dragon. I'm curious on how that works entirely. I want to see a flashback actually destroying Alderaan. I'm really, really wanting to see some flashbacks of like characters experiencing Acnologia. Alderaan is definitely one of the ones I want to see most. The one I want most is Ignia, because at least out of them so far, Ignia is by far the youngest, and given the timeline, he would be like a little kid. He'd be like a young dragon when Acnologia's genocide kind of like started. So you'd see it from the eyes of a fearful child, essentially. Obviously, he'd be a dragon and not like a human child, but you know what I mean? You'd see it from just youth. It'd be absolute terror. And I think that would be really cool to see set up. But with Alderaan, I really like that Alderaan's had him go to try and fight Acnologia 100 years like into his campaign. Because Acnologia, like the setup, like it was 400 years ago. Really, he started doing it, and then it was 100 years later because Drasil like started 300 years prior to the story. So 100 years somewhere after Acnologia started, Alderaan tried to go. He tried to go make an attempt to stop this guy, and it did not work for him at all. It did not work. He got a 300. He got to run away in fear and take a 300-year recovery nap. Like I love Acnologia. I have a video planned for him. I'm gonna do soon. Um, I just want to express like why he's such a badass. The sheer concept of him as this living apocalypse. I can't wait. Elentir probably a dragon eater. There's no way he's a dragon eater. Because if he was a dragon eater, he would be the strongest dragon eater. That I don't believe that somebody who would make the White Witch somebody who's shown, or at least and built up as powerful as Zareth, and then make them this nervous. The only characters that have made because Elefsaria, not Elefsaria, the White Witch is on level with Zareth from what we've been stated, and I think it's very viable and makes sense based off the fact that she was able to completely no difficulty beat Jalal and Laxus at the same time. It's 100% believable that she's at that level. Especially like we know that Laxus and Jalal both also got a lot stronger since Alvarez, and she still beat him like nothing. So somebody that would make her freak out and sweat like this has to be a big deal. That's why I think it has to be a dragon god level character, or it has to be a god. It has to be like a full Ankh-Saram kind of like standing god within the series. Because a Dragoneers wouldn't make Zareth sweat like this. Absolutely not. It has to be one of the two. And if it's a dragon god level threat, like it would be, I think it would make more sense to have it like a god, kind of like Ankh-Saram, than a dragon god, unless the dragon god is like revealed to be that Celine had one more, that like she kept a secret, like she was hiding somebody, or something. It's possible to work in another dragon god, especially because they're based off the 7 luminary days. We only have 5, and some people are saying the sun dragon god, but I think that's going to be Natsu. I think Natsu is going to be the one, but I wouldn't mind it because it would be enough to work with the fact that she is the moon, and if she had like a secret dragon god with her and it was the sun dragon god, that would be really cool to have, because then it'd be the sun and the moon. I think that would be really neat to have. There's a lot of possibilities. There's a lot to work up with this character and how it can affect the story. We just gotta wait and see, because that 100 Years quest has a lot going on. And I like that it doesn't feel like an arc. It's more like a saga, because each of the more of, if you would call it, like, the Alderaan arc or the Mercephobia arc, they're part of a larger story. So it feels a lot different than reading like Grand Magic Games or something. I think it has more of the effect that if you looked at a lot of the arcs going into Alvarez, and how Alvarez was really the culmination of multiple pieces of the story. But I think this, though, is a little bit different, because for the most part, it's all happening in the 100 Years Quest storyline. So it really feels just like one big saga. And it's the only arc right now that is a contender for me for my favorite arc, because I can't count it until it's over. But I feel like if it just keeps up the way it's been, then it'll beat Tartaros for me. That's unknown right now, because Tartaros is my favorite manga arc in total. Like, I have so much fun going through Tartarus in both the manga and the anime, even now, than I do any other arc in any other series. I love the Tartarus arc, but I think the 100 Years Quest um, is a potential contender for it. Like, the manga is already really good. I'm hoping it gets an anime. I'm really hoping it's an anime. I'd love to see this animated. We just need not them to fuck up and get like a bad animation team. We need a solid one. I'm going to be working. Well, I hope you have fun at your work, man. I remember when Noel's spells used to be translated as Naga. I remember that too. I think Hydra would be really cool. Like, imagine if she used her Sea Dragon Orb, but it was like Hydra. It was like Hydra's Onslaught or something, and she used it. And it was like five. It was like a 5-headed Sea Dragon, and it was like upgraded, so it was bigger. It had like bigger horns and stuff. and it just in general looked way more intimidating. I think that'd be a lot cooler, and especially like when you have Asta and Asta is set up and themed after a devil, like in the concept of his character, like in terms of his fight, his power and stuff, and his form. Is like a fairy or a spirit. Obviously, spirit is they're spirits, but Belle is like a pixie. Actually, I think a pixie would make more sense because she's kind of like set more like Tinkerbell. Actually, was Tinkerbell a pixie or a fairy? I gotta look it up right now. Actually, uh, Peter Pan, Tinkerbell. Was she a fairy or was she a pixie? I have no idea. I think pixie, because wasn't it pixie dust? Oh my god, I gotta find the wiki. Let's see. What is she? Where's her race as a magical creature? Oh my god. She is a fairy. Okay. So yeah, pretty much that with And then if Noelle's set up more of like this, like a Hydra or something, because obviously that, as a magical creature. I'm fine if she stays like a dragon and just gets bigger dragons, but I think a Hydra would be an evolution in a badass way for her instead of just getting bigger. Rex, do you think that Tabata will differentiate Noelle's spirit dive and Yuno's? I mean, yeah, I think they'll be a lot different in terms of just general design. I think hers is going to be more towards looking like an evolution of her Valkyrie dress, but also I think that in the ideas of their spirit dives, you have to look into exactly what each of these spirits do. So far from what we've seen with each of them, like in general, like they're emphasized more on the bigger traits of that magic. Like Undine was shown, her biggest thing was large scale AoE in volume. Like the scale of her attacks were huge. Whereas Salamander is straight concentrated firepower. He is just high offense. He is high direct offense. And like we haven't seen Gnome, but Belle, like as Sylph, and her like the level of sensory you get, and then like I said earlier, recovery of magic is her thing. That each of them have their own skill, and I think that's going to be one of the main things that's really presented. That's why I think a multi Sea Dragon's Roar style attack, like all wrapping around an opponent and attacking them, would be the coolest thing for Noelle. Because it would not only be like a cool evolution of her abilities, but it would also be like playing off of what Undine does and the power of Undine. Let's see. I recently had the realization Noelle is a much more important character in Black Clover than Ochako is in My Hero, even though both are main females. I mean, yeah, Ochako doesn't really do anything. Like she's not like the thing that upsets me about her is she has a very good power. Like she has one of the better powers in My Hero because at the start it was gravity manipulation, which obviously is great, and then it was like evolved. Like there's one of the volume extras I think that talks about it. How she doesn't act. She thinks it's gravity manipulation, but it's actually like Met does stuff with space time. So like anything that she like that they described it in that baseball or whatever that she threw in like that first like kind of like test early in the series is as long as that doesn't like the effect that she put on it goes away, it'll just keep floating in that direction in space and it won't lose momentum. It'll just keep going. And I was just like, man, they gave her a better power and she's still just irrelevant. It's lame. I don't like Ochako. I mean, I don't hate her. I would rather that they let her do stuff and like become like a good character. I'm annoyed that they have like a character with a lot of really good potential, but they don't really do anything with her. She just kind of is there. And that's more of what I'm upset about with her character is that they have somebody that they just underutilize. I mean, like look at like Lucy and Noelle. Like Noelle at the start of Black Clover couldn't cast her own spells properly, couldn't really do anything. Like Lucy was like threatened and flexed on by Aquarius. She couldn't control her spirits like the best way, as well as she couldn't like force gate closures. And like you just see the characters evolve as like everything's going on. Noelle gaining control, Lucy just improving a lot and become like a much more capable wizard. And then like what's Ochako done? Nothing. She's done like jack shit nothing in the course of like almost 300 chapters. It sucks. It's lame. What is it? Undead Unluck is only what 30 chapters in, and Izumo has done more in that time than Ochako's done in her whole series. It's it's not even close. Do you think White Wizard is White Angel? I mentioned there that everyone theorizes that it's probably Celine, and that I think it would make more sense if it was Celine because with her whole like religious kind of setup, it would be really cool to see where exactly it kind of like leads into connecting parts in their story, especially when you have this character who is obsessed with the moon, and then you can kind of like maybe she thought the moon or snow should be white because it would do something with the moon, or oh, I wanted the moon to be white because I thought it would make I thought it would make the moon look prettier on snowy days or something if the snow was white or something like that. I think that'd be really cool because it would connect towards her whole setup and do more with her. I like with when it comes to the White Witch, I think it would still be really interesting, but I don't think it would have the same level of like I don't think it would have the same level of connecting build that it would with Celine, especially with Celine up next. And I think it would make her generally just more interesting, like in her dedication towards the her like view of the moon. If like she's done all these crazy things throughout history just in exchange to pretty much boost up the moon. Like imagine if she did that. Like she got snow to be white because she liked the look more towards the moon, and then she like invented moon drip and showed this crazy dispelling magic. Just so people would be like, man, the moon's amazing. Like if she just connected stuff, did stuff throughout history that was just for hyping up like her belief in like how beautiful the moon is and stuff. That would be really cool. I think that'd be really hype for her character. I would definitely really like that. Noelle is a tritagonist. Ochako's a regular secondary character. Noelle is like the female lead. But she's like a good female lead, like Lucy is, where she's not the main character, but she still is relevant. She's still growing. She's still able to compete in stuff that happens to be vital towards the plot, while also having her own story. That's one of the bigger things about both of them is not only are they big in participating in whatever is going on, they both have their own side plots. They both have their own things going off on the side that it's like, okay, well, you guys can do whatever it is that's towards whatever the boss is. There's this clue over here that might connect me to my own thing, and I like that a lot. Like they're able to keep up and compete, and then you don't get that a lot with a lot of like not now, like a lot of female leads in Weekly Shonen Jump. It was mainly Weekly Shonen Jump, but kind of the older series, a lot of newer series don't really let their female leads become irrelevant like that. But Chainsaw Man's a different story. But My Hero, like Ochako just doesn't do anything. She's lame. There's almost like no real point to have her around, which sucks because like I mentioned before, she doesn't have to be like some crazy fighter like Deku. She just has to like learn how to like manipulate her ability in the best that she can. Like she should be able to fly, flying. She should be able just to kind of like pretty much just clap her hands and then use her gravity manipulation on herself and fly. And then if she's fighting people, she doesn't have to like beat them unconscious. She just has to, get her hands on them, dodge some attacks, get her hands on them, and then bam, gravity manipulate them up into the air so they can't really fight, and then get them arrested. Like she has high potential, but she doesn't do anything, which is the roughest part about it. Rex, I really want to see White Witch and Lucy interact. That would be really cool too. There's a lot of stuff also with like Lucy that I would like to see brought up because the fact that Alderaan brought up Natsu being a demon, I like was brought up. I want to see more about like older stuff and how it kind of connects. And I still think that when Lucy altered Natsu's book, that when we saw like that power enter her body, that was the living magic link. That is how like all the demons were connected to Zeref. So when Zeref died, all the Aetherius died because his books died along with him. And it would make more sense for Natsu to be alive while Zeref died if the link went to Lucy instead. So I really want to see someone bring that up, and I that to me makes the most sense of why like Natsu stopped when when he was out of control and Lucy went and grabbed him and she was getting hurt, as well as like she felt differently while seeing Natsu's form than anybody else there. I think it's gonna have to do with the connection, and I think that would be really cool too if it's like they are connected, like the idea of Natsu will only be alive while Lucy's alive. I think will be a really cool way to kind of like really build their characters and the relationship as well, which will be really weird when you think about it. Like way later along in the series, like imagine like decades from now, like being Lucy and Natsu's kid, knowing that if Lucy dies, then Natsu dies as well. So if something happened to kill your mom, your dad would just die by default. It'd be a sad ending to those characters, but yeah, it would be really interesting to see exactly how this is all going to get played out. I still think it's going to happen. It's my belief that Lucy is in fact connected. It just makes the most sense to me. Remember when she took down a half dead overhaul? She didn't do anything. She didn't do anything. I mean, even in the part where Deku got revealed to have more than the one quirk, like all she did was jump on him and then yell at Shinzo to do stuff. All she did was say, "Hey, guy who actually is capable of doing something in this situation, do the important thing while I just jump and yell at you." She sucks. She doesn't do anything, and her development has mostly just kind of been like lukewarm and not really that entertaining to see. And she's not a notable character. Nobody who ever really talks about her outside of like, oh, she's cute. She does quirky, silly stuff, and they go shopping sometimes, and she wears this nice outfit. She doesn't do anything. People are always going off about like Noelle and how she's how well she's working into like the plot right now and her own development and like badass stuff like her fight against Monica and her getting up even when she like could barely stand and had like no magic left, but she wasn't going to stop fighting. It was really good. And then here's Ochako, who's done what in the last 100 chapters? Jumped on Deku. Wow, big scary. She sucks. I would rather her be good. I would be perfectly fine with praising her character. She has to do stuff though in order to be praised. Let's see. Alderon Alvarez Natsu versus Naruto Shippuden. You asked me too many fights, man. You ask me other questions. I don't want to just talk about characters fighting all the time. I mean, it depends. I mean, like Natsu has Savage Fire, Savage Dragon Fire, and I've already said before that right now, like more often than not, Naruto's gonna win. Natsu needs to once Natsu gets Dragon God status, then he's gonna be able to win. There's just Natsu hasn't reached his peak yet, where Naruto did. It's pretty simple. Ochako's biggest moment is not telling Deku her feelings, while Noelle is consistent sense from the start. Noelle is done consistently, and she is always building up and getting better and getting stronger, while also becoming more confident in herself and having a much. I think her relationship also with Deku is a lot better done than or sorry, with Asta is a lot better than Ochaku and Deku because really Ochaku doesn't really participate a lot, so you don't have the same moments, which I think is a really big gap between just the characters in general. Let's see. Where was I? The old man that gave Team Natsu the quest could probably end up being the villain. I've already said before, I'm very suspicious of LF Saria. I don't trust him. I think he's a very shady individual, and I think that weird mural that he has is. I don't think it's just some indicator on the Dragon Gods. I think it has something to do with like Mercifopia losing his powers and stuff. I think it's going to be a bigger thing. It looks like a portal. It looks like some form of portal. It's like built into the wall. Like it got put like the wall got reconstructed just to have this strange odd ass thing that somehow can track the Dragon God's levels of power. I think that somehow he is like stealing their power while they're being defeated, and that's doing something important for his plan. Like maybe by the end of it, it'll open up and something crazy will come out. Maybe that's something to do with Elentir. Who knows? Even Mutsumi from Mission Yosa family is relevant. I mean, yeah, it's what is it? My Hero is like the only newer age shonen in Weekly Shonen Jump where you have the female lead kind of still being bad. I mean, she's not. It's not that she's bad. I would say it's just that she doesn't do anything, so she's boring, and she just becomes like a. She's almost like a side character. I think that's also one of the problems. She doesn't even feel like she's important in the story at all. You don't get that a lot anymore. I mean, like Sakura. Sakura was obviously one of them. Orihime is kind of like a middle spot because she couldn't really fight, but she realized like how good she was obviously at healing and support, and she focused on that instead and improving that, which I've always thought was very. Always thought that was very smart of her to do. She took her she improved what she excelled at. But then you have like Nami's kind of like a not really, but maybe in the future, like she occasionally has a moment, but like she still, for the most part, doesn't really do a whole lot. It's whatever. It's not a big thing. Do you think that Tabata will develop some of the less important Black Bulls? I mean, yeah, of course. We know Luck's dad. Luck's dad is like a weird thing. It's like Laxus's mom. It's one of those it's one of those plot lines and story pieces that we don't need it, but we'd be okay with it. I don't think anybody would complain about that being in the story, but I don't think there's anybody outside of like wanting just to generally find out more about Luck. As like no, I don't think that many people have their fingers crossed on finding out about Luck's dad. But I think everybody would be okay with it, and everyone would be interested if that plot was set up. The same thing with Laxus's mom. Like nobody's like, oh man, I really want to find this out. It's just like it'd be cool, but we're all concerned with bigger things. We all want way more severe things coming up in the story than just a small like, oh that's cool reveal. I ask a lot of versus questions. I mean, yeah, but it's always like some character that I probably mentioned 30 times against some one other character. Sometimes it gets too much versus stuff. I I like ones that are a lot more. I don't know. I think a lot more fair to do. That's why sometimes when I do like I'll do Black Clover. I'll do a bait one sometimes. I like to do it with Black Clover and Fairy Tail just because I love Black Clover. But I like to show my non-bias a little bit towards Black Clover, but also because I think that their series have a lot of similarities and I really like, and I think they would do well to cross in their way of combat and their like magic systems. Chapter 10 of Kaiji number 8 is good. I'm not caught up yet. Luck status Thor. I don't think so. I mean, like, I like the idea that Luck is just some like broken prodigy. He's just somebody who is really talented. He just was born with a lot of talent, but it's because of that kind of just made him the way he is and how weird he is. I really don't think Luck having like some special dad would really be. It's not vital. And if he has the Thor's boots and his dad is Thor, I think that'd be kind of lame. I mean, you could probably take a character and design him off of the idea of Thor, but it shouldn't be Thor in name. And if it's an actual god, I think that'd be dumb. I don't think Luck should be the son of a god. I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but like Luck would have to be absurdly more important if that was the case. And I don't think that's really what Luck's position is in the series. I don't think so. I'd be more interested if Luck was like a bastard of Gaja than Luck being the son of Thor. Who are Laxus and Ivan's mothers? Yeah, nobody knows. They're not really. It's not really a big deal to find out. It's the same thing with Luck's dad. People would be alright with finding it out, but nobody's really needing it. It's not something that's like vital. No one's like looking at the stuff with like the dragon gods and Selene, like her plans, the White Witch, Diablo, Celisari. No one's looking at all this. Elentir and saying like, oh, what is Laxus's mom like? Who is Laxus's mom? There's like some people still wondering, but it's not really that important, especially with like what's going on now. Like there's way more like big things going on right now that people are really hungry to find out than who is Laxus's mom. there are a lot more important things. We know that those will get addressed. I'm not about to ask Rax. Do you think you'll find out about Asta's parents? I mean, yeah, we will find out against Asta's parents. I mean, that one's obvious though. Like we saw a little bit towards an Asta flashback in his fight with Dante right before he went berserk. I mean, we definitely know that though. That Asta's parents are gonna get mentioned. I'm still hoping Asta's parents aren't special. I'm hoping they're nobodies. I'd be perfectly fine if Asta's parents were both peasants and something happened with devil stuff that they got their kid like I'm imagining like Asta's parents were peasants and their kid was pretty much picked up to be like a sacrifice for devil stuff because it's like, oh, they're expendable, whatever. It's a peasant baby, and that's how Asta lost magic. Like it had to do with the devils. I think that'd be really cool. But I just don't want Asta's parents to be like kind of like, obviously is the son of the Spade, a former Spade King. He is he is he's the prince of the kingdom. I don't want Asta to be kind of on that style. I don't want him to be like big important guy Magoo. I mean in backstory, whoever his parents are. I really like that Asta and the idea came from nothing and then kind of just rose up the ranks, did his thing. Because that's one of the things I think hurt Naruto at the end, is Naruto being like this child of a prophecy, pretty much. It didn't ruin the story, but it definitely, I think it hurt the initial kind of premise, of Asta, of Naruto being this underdog, and you had like Sasuke and Neji be like these talented guys, and Naruto showing, hard work and effort can beat raw talent. I think a lot of people think that. I think a lot of people are against the idea of Naruto becoming, a reincarnated, destined to be just the savior kind of guy. I don't know. That's just one of those things I'm pretty sure. Just I've seen a lot of like-minded people when it came to it. But at the same time, like I said, I don't think it ruins the series. I think it hurts some of this earlier on stuff that made Naruto really likable at the beginning. But I don't think it's series breaking. I don't think that at all. I think it's still good. I still really like Naruto. I think he's a really solid character, and it was a really fun series. And obviously, like I read Boruto, so I definitely am still keeping up with activities in their world. What's up, Shamik? How's it going? What if Elentir is an Eclipse Dragon? That'd be really cool. So the way that it would work if they were gonna do something like that is, what if Elentir was the Sun Dragon god, and then Selene was the as the Moon Dragon goddess, and then they had like a unison raid, and similar to how Sting and Rogue become the White Shadow Dragon, you had Elentir and Selene become the Eclipse Dragon. Like that's what their combo's called. Something like that would be super badass. I'd be perfectly happy to see stuff like that. Like the Sun Dragon God is a very very reasonable theory because, like I said, not like the Dragon Gods are based off the 7 luminary days, and right now we only have 5 of them. The ones we're missing are the Sun Day and the Earth Day. So the Sun Dragon being a thing would make sense. I just would like it to be Natsu because I think that'd be really cool for that to be Natsu's kind of spot, like when he becomes Dragon God level. But I'd be perfectly fine if he doesn't, and maybe he just kind of like takes Fire Dragon God from Ignia. I'd be fine with that as well. But yeah, I said there's a lot of possibilities. There's a lot really to work with, and that's what I'm most excited about when it comes to like stuff like this. Is like just having things to theorize about, having things to really work on, and just have this large scale kind of like tinfoil hat time of just looking at the wording, trying to go back and find things. I think that's a lot of fun. And that's one of the best parts when you become like very invested in a series, is the amount of digging for answers to like small clues and secrets like this. I think that's definitely one of the most fun parts. And I think a lot of people just have a generally really good time when something gets mentioned. Like I know One Piece fans do it a lot too. Like imagine when trying to think of anybody specific, like Kaido, trying to maybe look back at like earlier signs of like hinting towards his character, or maybe where where he connects or something that happens, like well this actually was first mentioned 100 chapters beforehand or something. I think that's one of the things that One Piece fans really like, and I can understand that as somebody who does that with Fairy Tail, and I think people, there are much people that do it with Black Clover as well, and people who do it with My Hero Academia, like just in general, looking like being having something to incentivize just large scale like exploration of a series' like content is, in my opinion, one of the best aspects about a long going shonen. And that's one of the reasons I really like a lot of big shonens. They give you they give you usually so much to dive into, and that's just a lot of fun in general. Like I said, just going back, finding stuff, trying to look for pieces from did was the author setting it up here? Is this just a misunderstanding? Where exactly can I kind of work my theories around whatever new information that we have? Again, that's super fun. What is Natsu's parents revealed to be important? Natsu's parents? I mean, Natsu's parents were just like they lived in a small hut. I don't think they really were important. Like they were just like two random villagers. Neither of them looked like a big deal. Was good Rex? Just chilling, just having a nice stream, hanging out, looking forward to just relaxing these next 2 days for the weekend. I know it was a short week with like people at Labor Day and stuff, but always relax and get as comfortable on the weekend, your time off as you can. You always got to try and make yourself happy and just enjoy yourself when it's your time. I think that's always really important to kind of keep in a good mindset and keep and just just keep a high sense of morale, self morale and stuff. What would be a twist if the White Wizard knew Natsu but doesn't remember? I mean, that would feel too much like the same with Zareth, though. I don't want that. I mean, like I like that the White Witch has some similarities to how Zara felt when Zara first was revealed, but I don't want her to be just the same thing. I don't want her to be the same thing because I like the idea if Elentir is to her what Ankh was to Zareth, but the idea is she's fighting back against Elentir, whereas Zareth just tried to live. He just wanted to escape and be happy, but he can never get away. Zareth fleeing, whereas like if the White Witch is doing everything she can in order to fight, I think that'll just be really cool and then like a really nice difference between them. Do I like Cream River Tempest? I've like watched a few episodes of that slime series. I'm not a huge fan of isekais. Like whenever an isekai comes out, I like there has to be like a really good twist to like how it's done in order for me to really kind of like give an isekai a shot. Just because there's so many of them, like they've calmed down a lot, but like there used to be like 8 isekais like trending like every week. Like people just jumped on them. See, Natsu should become the new Fire Dragon King. I mean, Natsu doesn't want to be king. The difference though between king and god is like if you look at Mercephobia, like people saw them as the dragon gods and called them that because they're so powerful that they worshipped and feared them like gods, and that could work with Natsu as well. I don't think it'd be the same as King because whereas God, like these people are gonna see this about him regardless of how he feels about it. They're just gonna do it, and Natsu's just gonna be like, "Well, I didn't ask them." Kind of like Urza with Urza when it came to Titania. Like she didn't call herself that. She didn't really endorse like this nickname. People just referred to that, refer to her as that. I think that'd be cool with Natsu too. I want to see the White Mage and Lucy interact. I want to see a flashback of the White Mage and Zareth interact. That's the one of the big ones I'd love to see because she's also a big window into seeing Zareth like a match between Zareth and somebody on his level in an actual fight because everybody really like besides Acnologia was below Zareth for the most part. Like Irene and August were nothing to Zareth. Zareth was able to do stuff that Dragon Irene like he was able to snap his fingers and like instantly on the site and give Irene a human like body. Whereas Irene spent 400 years trying to do that. Zareth was just above them. Zareth was just drastically above any other wizard. And then you have somebody who similarly is on level with him. You can have like perfect style of seeing Zareth go all out like in a full just fight between two master level fucking just master level wizards, and you could see like what Zareth was capable of if he was in a full fight, because he would just trash people generally, or with Natsu, like he wasn't trying to be as crazy powerful as he was. He was just trying to have a really good fight. And Natsu also countered a lot of stuff that he could do because burning magic and stuff. But at the same time, I think that would be so cool to see. Like, I know a lot of people wanted Fairy Heart Zeref to fight Acnologia. Obviously, like what we know about Acnologia would be kind of like pointless for Zeref to do, given the fact that Acnologia could just eat his magic. But Zeref versus the White Witch, I think, would be like a really cool like. Nobody would complain about seeing the flashback too. I think that'd be amazing. I always bring that up when I argue about how like one of the things I didn't like in the Odin flashback in One Piece is you had Roger and Whitebeard clash, and this isn't just like them clashing. This is the two biggest characters really in their world in the One Piece kind of like story in their prime clashing, and it's like it just got skipped over, and I was like, that's probably the closest you'll ever get to see to a fight like that. I don't think Oda's ever gonna do like those two in a full fight, like just visually letting us see them fight, and it sucks. I think that's really unfortunate because why tease such a big thing like that if you weren't going to do it? It'd be like if we saw Acnologia and Igneo clash, and then we didn't see anything after like the first headbutt. It was just like, oh, off paneled entirely. Like we didn't get like a full on long dedicated fight between them. We kept getting peeks into seeing like clashes, but we still got a fight, which is still good. And I would love to see that with Zareth and the White Witch. I would love to see something like that. I think everybody would be really happy to see. It's like a two-chapter fight where it's literally just each of them whipping out spell after spell after spell, and just different types of magic, and on large scales, like lots of broken abilities that you're just like, holy shit, this is like what this level of character is really capable of when fighting an equal. I think that would be amazing. I think that would be instantly one of the coolest moments in the whole series if we just got like a good fight between the two characters, Zareth and the White Witch. That would be amazing. I don't know if it'll ever happen. I don't know if we'll ever get a flashback like that. But if we do, it it would be crazy. I mean, honestly, like even one chapter, if we just got to see each of them flex like a handful of big spells at each other, that'd be that'd be super cool. That'd be amazing. Because like the only time we really see Zara fight is against Natsu, but he doesn't do a lot of like his crazier abilities because either he doesn't want to just kill Natsu because Natsu he wants to really have a really good fight with him, but also Natsu can burn a lot of his spells. So we saw more of Zareth in the style of more of like a combat wizard rather than an ancient like caster of like all black magic. Because that's one of the things about Zareth we do know about when it comes to his magic. Because August knew more magic in terms of like a wide variety of spells, but Zareth specifically mastered all black magic. So anything in Fairy Tail that is classified as black magic, Zareth should have access to. Even if he didn't show it because we know he did it. It's specifically something about Zareth. We tried out Monster or Kaiju number 8. I have a couple chapters and it's pretty cool though. I like kaiju's, so I'm probably gonna like the series a lot. I just gotta keep reading. I'm like chapter 4 or 5 in, so once I just progress throughout it, I mean, I think I'll naturally just enjoy it more. Like I already like the main character. I think he's cool. I think his form is badass, like his monster form. I think that looks really, really badass. Just in general, it has such a straightforward, doesn't need any long explanations. It's just cool to look at and cool powers. And I'm sure it'll evolve and become much more throughout the series, but it's a good opening. And I mention a lot that I think the main character's powers is important to a series because it's the main character. You have to catch people's attention early on. If you have just a character, if his power was like, oh, my power is to speak with kaiju so I can yell at him while I'm fighting him, or something boring, or if it was just like, oh, I'm trying to think, he was just a dude in a mech suit, it's cool, but it's nothing that stands out crazily. And I think the main character being a kaiju is a simple yet badass twist on it, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun to really see. That's one of the things I think a lot of people really liked about Attack on Titan at the start too. It was just cool to see the main character turn into one of these monsters.
Race Skull Zeref, even though he doesn't have many feats. Above the Phoenix, below Acnologia. I mean, Zeref's definitely a world-ending character. Uh, interga- uh, Interrogation for the White Mage. I mean, they got to be careful though. The thing is she is still technically a member of the guild until they kick her out and remove her guild tattoo. She is a member of the Fairy Tale Guild, and she's still like you could tie her in as one of them. As they can try and kick her out, but the difference between like when they kicked Laxus out and when they if they try to kick her out is she is above all of them by a lot. She is by far the strongest member of the guild. The closest things in the guild that can fight her, it's like Dragon Force Natsu, who would only be able to probably keep up with her for a brief period of time, because once his Dragon Force runs out, he's gonna lose. So it's just like she's just more powerful. And they have to be careful with her because she is extremely dangerous. She is not somebody that they should take lightly or really just kind of like not give the full kind of like weight of her level of threat. Because if they piss her off, what's stopping her from just ripping all the magic out of their bodies again? Unless she's weakened right now, maybe what happened with Celine that maybe she lost a lot of her power or something. Who knows? But they have to be careful with her. And unless she's unable to fight back in general, I don't think they can really interrogate her. Does not have E&D still because people think it is. Yes, I mean that was very obvious when we saw his Aetherius Dragon Force form when he fought Mercephobia. Like he had the same markings. He kept shifting between his personality and the one he had when he like went Aetherius the first time. It's very obvious. On top of that, when you look at like Nazi's book vanished back in Alvarez. Alvarez. I don't know how I like lagged on that wording. And Alvarez, like the book just vanished. It just merged back with him. I feel like that part anybody who pays attention can kind of just piece that in and be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like it just combined back with him. He still got his powers. The book couldn't just disappear because it's part of his life, so it has to have merged back with him. And so I think it's obvious that he still has this form. Because otherwise, like if it didn't merge back with him, where'd the book go? Because he's alive because of living magic. He's still a demon, and Alderaan even confirms he's still a demon. But like Natsu obviously doesn't give a shit. Like he is himself. He's his own man. But like the stuff with the White Witch, they have to be careful with. They can't take her lightly at all. She can't just be seen as she's just she's a potential threat. It's like no, she is a mega threat. They have to be careful with her. Nozel for Wizard King. Nozel's cool. I don't think it'll be Nozel though. I think it's gonna be Fuego Leon. And I think the previous chapter where we saw a lot of them arguing and the one to kind of just settle everyone down and it was Fuego Leon makes it just way more obvious that it's gonna be him as the next king. I mean, also on top of that, like having Salamander having such a potential power increase, like if he learns Spirit Dive, it's his the gap between him and Nozel is I think that he's definitely stronger than Nozel in general. I think in terms of just straight power output, durability, I think he is above Nozel. Nozel's thing is obviously speed and the how flexible his Mercury magic is. But I think that from what we saw, that he is not as powerful in general right now as Fuego Leon, and the fact that he has Salamander and potentially Spirit Dive, it's like the second he has Spirit Dive, it's like it's not even going to be an argument anymore. Nozel would have to get something to really push him way further ahead if he's going to match somebody with a Spirit Dive who's already a captain level character. Like Fuego Leon is going to be so much further. It's not even going to be comparable. Uh, Why does Irene want a body? I mean, she wants to have a body again. She wants to be alive. Because she's not even a soul. This is a personality. It's similar to how she made her minions. She can create personalities and then put them into things. She essentially made a copy of herself, put it into Wendy, and then that personality is going to want to find a body so she can essentially be alive again. She, in a way, knows how to cheat death. She sort of does, but sort of doesn't, which is interesting. Who do you think is going to be the strongest dragon god? It's going to be. I feel like at least out of the five, it's going to be Ignia because not he's going to be the one that Natsu's going to have to fight last. I don't think Natsu's going to fight Ignia before Viernes. The only ones I could see after Ignia is if there's extra dragon gods, if there's some secret boss, which there probably is. Hiromashima loves secret bosses, and I'm pretty sure that that's just going to be who is the end enemy of 100 Years Quest. I'm the series Ignia is going to be the strongest. Yeah, I think so too. At least out of the five. Who do you think will escape Quillfoth? I think some of the devils are definitely going to get out. The thing is, I think it's going to be down to the last couple, and maybe like seven, 6 or 7, and then like the ones left, there's going to be some that are killed, but maybe like 2 or 3 that don't die and escape, and then they're like the villains after the Spade Kingdom, and they're like we need to get the doors open to get the others out, because I don't think if Lucifero gets out in this arc, then he's not the main, he's not the final villain for Black Clover, and that's one of the really interesting things to me about the Spade Kingdom War is it's either going to set up the final villain or we've yet to really understand what the ending of this series will kind of even be like. Because um if the ending is like if he's set up to be the final villain, then it's like okay, by the end they'll fight some big apocalypse demon. But if he's not, I mentioned before the only other kind of like style of end villain I could see for Black Clover, if it's not some super mega king devil, is some form of evil ancient wizard. Like I'm imagining Merlin, but evil, and then it's just down to Austin, like trying to defeat this kind of character once we get near the end game of Black Clover. It's going to be really interesting just to see like where this arc kind of goes and what really it kind of like builds into and just what exactly we're going to see set up for the future and what that's going to do for the overall structure of this story. I really think that the meeting showed Yami should be. I don't think Yami should be Wizard King, and I don't mean it in like I don't think that he deserves it. It's kind of like Natsu it being Guildmaster. He's strong enough to be Guildmaster. With Dragon Force, Natsu is the strongest in the guild. I genuinely do not believe that Guild Arts is stronger than Dragon Force Natsu, but Natsu isn't a leader type. Natsu is their champion. Whereas Yami doesn't have the personality for it. I think Fuego Leon should do it because Fuego Leon has both the power and he's got the mindset of getting the job done and keeping everybody in line. Whereas Yami just doesn't have the style to it. I think it would be too constricting for Yami to kind of just do things the way that he likes to kind of do things. I don't think he would be fit for the role based off just of how he is and how he acts. I don't think he would be a good spot for Wizard King. I like Yami just kind of being like this badass scoundrel kind of like leader of this elite force within the Clover Kingdom. That is my favorite kind of like idea for Yami's position. Do I think Gold Dragon God has some dragons hidden? I do. So I think with his extra secret style to him, on top of his name, because Viernes is Spanish, and him being a gold dragon and him being extra hidden away in secret, I think that he will have to do with like his city and his people are going to be themed around El Dorado, and I think that extra mystery, like if it works in well with just these things tied together, you could have like dragons and maybe other magical creatures like him hiding away like from Zeref's or Zeref from Acnologia's reach, and it'd be really cool just to see some dragons in general. Let's see. Kid Naruto versus Natsu first arc. I mean, Natsu's still way stronger than Naruto in part one. I mean, Naruto can't really do anything. Like Naruto part one, like he didn't really fight that many big enemies, and his power level never really went crazy outside of stuff with Kurama. But like even early Kurama stuff is nothing really to kind of look at and be too impressed on. Whereas obviously like it started to really pick up like when he got Rasen Shuriken. I think Naruto like started to really kind of get bigger in power level. The first time was like what Four Tails when he like went crazy on Orochimaru, and like you saw the first kind of like attempt at like a tailed beast ball and stuff, tailed beast bomb. But yeah, anyway, I'm gonna end it. We had a pretty fairly length stream. I'm probably gonna start working on some videos. I want to get my stuff on Elentir, my theories on Elentir put out, as well as I still want to work on my Alderaan video. Eventually I gotta get to Jalal versus Zareth. I've been putting that off for a while. Like I have it all thought of. I just gotta do the work for it. The other two, I think the Alderaan and Elentir one are definitely way more interesting. I also do have a White Witch one I'm gonna put out. That one should be really easy. I could probably do that right after this because I don't need to really do any editing. I just need to do like I pretty much just need to make a Photoshop of the image that I want for the picture, and then to kind of back up, but to kind of go with the theory that I have. So I'll talk about that. I'll probably do that in a couple minutes, probably like shortly after this stream, and then yeah. Other than that, I hope you guys have a pretty good weekend, a nice Saturday, a nice Sunday. We got chapters tomorrow, and I talked about on Tuesday. By the time you get finished at the weekend, and just you realize that you're already halfway with the 2 week break towards the fairy tale chapter, and then you just do it once more, and then we get nice stuff coming. Power scale videos coming soon? Maybe. I do want to do a video on just explaining how like energy equalization works in series, so because I don't think a lot of people really know how that functions and how you kind of like look at that when it comes to cross series stuff. But anyway, other than that,